TRW. Now with Crossbows and Cannon 2. Another Rob Markham design. The battles of Cerignola, Fornovo, Novara, and Pinky. I don't know how Pinky fits into the Battle of Pinky, September 10, 1547, was one of a series of Anglo-Scottish border clashes. That should be interesting. Although the cavalry was bested by the Scottish pikemen, the invading English were able to turn the tide by their use of ranged weapons. Artillery longbows in the flanking fire of an English fleet. Sounds interesting. I'm looking though at Novara. Battle of Novara, June 6th, 1513, saw a Swiss army use all its proverbial skill and its new cannon to inflict a severe defeat upon the French, though not without suffering horrendous losses. So based on the popular Royalists and Roundheads. The game features an easy-to-use command system. Leaders are rated for command initiative into combat. Weapons range from arquebuses and crossbows to cannon and pike, while unit types include stradios, genitors, pike, and more. Alright. So that's Crossbows and Cannon 2. Okay, so here I've set up Battle of Novara. Most important before I get started is units. Now we do have some terrain that's relevant. Obviously we have woods here. Wood should be -2 for fire, -1 for melee. Let me see if I remember that correctly. So -2 for fire, -1 for melee. Also only leaders and skirmishers can go in the woods anyway. So actually it's a good place. Actually it's a good refuge for skirmish units, which I believe historically these Swiss crossbowmen, I think they fled into the woods at one point in the battle. Okay, here we obviously have a rise. Not bad graphics here. This is a low rise, I would say. In game terms, yeah, level 2. So going up one level, every single unit types, including leaders, pay +1. And that's -1 for fire, -1 for melee. And then, oh, the town there, what do they call it? For the scenario, they call it, I'll see what they call it. Town, I guess. Is it a town? Yeah, a town, not a fortified town. Okay, Novara itself, which is on the opposite end of the map, is probably a fortified town, and this is probably just or fortified city. This is probably just normal town. Costs 1 for all units to go through this town. So we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hexes of town there. The town of Chakata, and town has no combat modifiers. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so it's really just the woods and the rise, the up one level, that looks relevant here. Now, next thing is, this game does not appear to provide... I could not find starting orders. Oh, I just realized, I hope that's not an errata. So let me see. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and assume that the player can choose their own starting orders. This game uses off-map displays for orders. I liked that when I first saw it a few years ago, when I started playing these games. I've actually come around to appreciate the the order chits that actually have the order on it, like stand, attack, advance, or whatever, and you put it on the board. Instead, at this point in the designer went with just generic command markers that are placed on, again, the off-map displays. The off-map displays. Yeah. But I'm going to go with the game is designed. I could have pulled out the orders or command markers from another game and used them, because it is the same. It's the same 6 basic royalist and roundhead commands. That part isn't changed. It's just how it's marked. But like I said, at least for now, I'm going to go as crossbows and cannon was designed. Okay, but I need to explain, since the orders are not given, what did I decide to do? So this is the Swiss Army here, and it's made up of 4 commands. Over here we've got Antius. I gave him a stand command for now, and I gave, I'm going to switch this right now. Never mind. Antius, I'm going to change his to an advance command, so he's going to advance and try to take out the French artillery there. And I'm going to switch. This is Graf here with some infantry. I'm going to change his to a stand order. He's going to defend here for now. The Swiss crossbowmen, actually they don't follow orders. They're skirmishers. Over here we have Moltenus with some infantry. I gave him an advance command, and then Sforza, mounted force, I gave them an advance command as well. So basically, advancing on the left, advancing on the right, but I'm going to hold back, get off here to see what happens. Okay. On the French side, they have 3 commands. All this big formation here, these are all just crossbowmen, skirmishers. Got some 4 wagon units there for supply trains. So we've got the 3 formations. We've got this formation on the left. That is Montfaucon. I gave him a stand command. In the center here is right here is Tremouille. I gave him a stand command, and I gave stand command to this Florange unit over there with the artillery. Okay, so basically defending and attacking, basically, which is more advancing, and then I'm going to turn the advancing to an attack. So offensive, defensive. Now, the other thing that I pretty much have to have straight before I can even start playing is these units. They're not the easiest to track. It's not obvious what they are, so I do need to make sure I am straight, because this has some interesting unit types. And again, I think you have to have it straight. So I want to avoid doing this too much, but this unit I need to know is, okay, this is an infantry, which is also a pike. Pike infantry, yes. Now, in the game, is there infantry that's not pike? I don't see infantry that isn't pike. I'll pay attention to that. And note that they have fire capability, so it must be a mixed type unit. And that's the same. Here's more pike infantry. It says infantry and pike in parentheses, so I'm gonna go with that. Maybe pike is just generic, like there's some pike in the formation. These are obviously, well, not obviously, but because they don't have any formation designation, you can go ahead and assume that they are skirmishers in game terms. They have a crossbow. Yeah, that's definitely a crossbow image on the icon. And they are, they are spelled out as crossbowmen, so all crossbowmen here. More pike infantry, and this is important. What exactly is this? With all the different kinds of mounted units in this game, what am I referring to? I'm referring to gendarme, heavy cavalry, genitors, lancers, mounted crossbow, light cavalry, and stradiots. Although stradiots are, I think they're normally light cavalry. But yeah, what is this? I mean, here's the deal. You need to look at the actual image there, because there is no other designation. The A, that's just the setup area. Milan name, 7 is its morale. B is just a unit designation, meaning that there are other units labeled Milan, and there'll be A, B, C, D, etc. 3 is its strength. 8 is its move allowance. The stripe does show its formation. There's nothing for unit designation except the icon itself. So you have to actually look. You know, the horse appears to have a black tail part. It appears to have like a gray, coat on. You have to look at the feather detail on the helmet. So after all of that, this is heavy cavalry or gendarme. I guess it's either, because they're all listed together. Okay. Now on the on the French side, it's the same deal. So this is normally a stradiot. However, so this image, this icon is normally a stradiot, but in fact the scenario rules tell us that this particular formation under Montfaucon, these are not considered, how do they word it? It's a special rule. They are not considered skirmishers. I'm not sure what that means in game terms. Does that mean I'm supposed to treat them as stradiot throughout the rules, but don't apply skirmisher rules to it? I think that's what it, well, they're obviously not skirmishers because they have a formation designation. No, you can have skirmisher units. Now I'm trying to remember other games in the series. Am I just confusing myself now? Okay, here, again, figuring out what is, again, I'm looking at the headdress, I'm looking at the uniform of the rider, the uniform of the horse. So this is also heavy cavalry gendarme. So these should all be gendarme. Crossbowmen, obviously, wagon trains or baggage trains. Artillery, just simple artillery. Simple artillery, nothing special there, I don't think. And finally, this one. So this is Landsknecht, I'm sure in historic terms, but in game terms, it is considered, it's considered pike infantry, okay. So the significance of the significance of all that in game terms is that there are even more different unit types that are not even in this particular scenario. So there are arquebusiers, there are longbowmen, there's mounted crossbow. Obviously not. I didn't see any in this scenario. There's light cavalry that I don't see. Lancers I don't see. Yeah, so we're actually using easily less than half of the unit types in the game. So I had to get all that straight because I'm gonna have to figure out movement costs. I have to figure out the combat tables, and all of that. Now, one more thing before I get started with the Swiss turn here is that always little discoveries. So under the attack command chit, I read earlier, if at the beginning of the melee phase a phasing unit with attack orders is not in an enemy ZOC, that unit may advance into a frontal hex at the end of all melee resolution. It may then readjust its phasing. So that's almost, think of that almost as like an infiltration movement or infiltration phase with infiltration movement from some type of 20th century World War II tactical game. I had completely forgotten about this from playing earlier a few years ago. I went back and I checked. It was not in Royalist and Roundheads. This was added at some point, and very interesting. So like I said, wasn't in Royalist and Roundheads. I didn't see it when I played Royalist and Roundheads recently. So this is just another piece of evidence of not taking the rules for granted, or thinking that the other thing is that I really, since they're, when it comes to talking about this design online, a fair amount of the discussion is all about slight changes to the rules from one set to the next. And there's talk, various gamers have talked about, and in some cases actually followed through with devising some type of like base or series rule, a base set. Or I don't see a base set. I just don't see a base set. I see an evolution of a general design idea. I see changes made to, and I also see changes. So I basically see two kinds of changes. One, a simple evolution from having games published, having the wargame community play those games and give feedback. So the designer took feedback and implemented it in the next game published. There's that type of rules changes, and the other type of rules changes, of course, are the ones meant to reflect better the particular times. Even though there's definitely a core design overall, it's really, I think the changes are also just as much changes to reflect particular evolution. Because here, very generally, very broadly speaking, obviously we're talking about the English Civil War, we're talking about the War of the Roses, we're talking about the Crusades, we're talking about the 100 Years' War. Here we're talking about the wars of Renaissance Italy, and we're talking about, I think a few other time periods can be thrown in there as well. So I do think the designer accepted the need for some rules changes without changes to the fundamental design direction. So yeah.